from the perspective of the Americans.
Definitely, definitely.
But did we think that the foreign policy of the Philippines under the Marcos administration would look this way?
Well, to be honest, I think one thing, at least I got right, was that he will not be like Duterte. Right? You can look at my writings back in June last year. I said he'll be more like his father, multi-vector, close to the US, but reach out to the other side. But yung pivot niya back to the US, yung velocity has been much faster than I thought. No? So honestly, I was expecting ma-finalize itong EDCA coverage and madoble potentially after yung kanyang official or state visit to the White House in April pa.
Okay.
So on the record, I said, let's wait until April. Just the other day. And boom, sa pagbisita ni Austin pa lang, eto na. I mean, interesting, it seems like every time Secretary of Defense Austin comes to the Philippines, something major happens. The last time he was here in 2021, na-restore yung VFA, as si Pangulong Digong ay nagpasalamat sa kanya for showing solidarity because of the vaccines and everything. This time he's here, boom, already na-finalize na, hindi lang yung full implementation of EDCA dun sa 5 bases. Dalawa dyan may direct na kinalaman sa West Philippine Sea, Bautista Air Base Palawan, Basa Air Base Pampanga. But now 4 undisclosed location. The question is, how north is north? Is it going to be in Cagayan and Isabela mainland proper in Luzon? Or are we going to go all the way to Fuga Island and potentially
yun yung tanong ko eh. How open are you to keep calling that undisclosed locations? Or are you fairly confident that, because there are a lot of reports going around kung saan malalagay ito.
Right.
A lot of it in the north, di ba? Near to Taiwan. We're talking about Cagayan.
Right.
How confident are you in projecting where they will likely be?
For me kasi it could be a mix of things, no? So for instance, alam natin the Balikatan will be in Ilocos Norte in April. That's also north, right? Another north. And it's going to be the biggest Balikatan ever, like 16,000 troops potentially from 8 to 9,000. Now, ang pwede kasing gawin is like, we know what's going to be the menu. We just don't know the exact ingredients that will go into some of the dishes there, main dish there, right? So it could be some of the bases sa sa northern Philippines, Luzon mismo, and then siguro yung Mavulis and Fuga could be potentially open up to US bases if an actual war happens. Because remember, between peace and war, so many things can happen.
Yes.
Right? So, yung pag-implement ng EDCA could be adjusted to all potential contingencies na pwede mangyari between now and a potential warfare.
Yeah.
So in short, it's not only na hindi finalize siguro yung locations, it's hindi rin siguro ma-finalize anytime soon yung exact way the EDCA will be expanded in its implementation. We're not talking about number of exercises, number of US troops coming in, the nature of weapon systems that will be prepositioned. So in short, I don't think we have crossed the Rubicon yet, but I would say this is the most consequential decision of President Marcos Jr. so far, only 7 months into his office. Kaya sobrang mahalaga ito.
You said between peace and war. I don't know if you meant that in temporal terms, as in...
No, in terms of range of options.
The situation.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, before we cross the Rubicon, before we cross any line, what might aggression, what might attack, what might unhappiness from Beijing look like? Diba? Kasi we're talking about this. We're talking about bases. We're talking about military exercises.
Correct.
But let's face it, it won't necessarily come to traditional warfare.
Right.
And there are many ways that we can get hurt.
Right. So there's a 50 shades of potential contingency before all-out conventional warfare. Yun yung tinatawag na hybrid warfare to get it from the Russian strategies, no? So there could be a full-scale cyber attack against Taiwan and potentially also against Philippines. There could be a partial or full embargo, making it very hard for Taiwan to trade with the rest of the world. May tinatawag din na short, sharp war. You target few Taiwanese military installations but don't go all the way war. So in short, between 1 to 10, peace and war, total war, there's so many options China can do. So ang idea dito is, if the US has more access to bases in the north of Philippines, it can have better preparations, then it can make it harder or costlier for China to do any of those 50 shades of threats I was talking about. Not only all-out conventional warfare, but also cyber capability, etc. So, kasi alam natin, yun yung soft underbelly literally ng Taiwan, is southern shores niya. Any full invasion will be happening there. But if the US also has more exercises in the area, more coordination with Philippines, and potentially also Japan. Remember, President Marcos is going to go to Japan next week. That's going to be an important visit. I'm sure the Taiwan issue will be discussed because the Japanese also have a direct interest in Taiwan on so many levels, no? So that's why I'm saying, like, ngayon pa lang, we are already preparing for D-Day because as the Roman saying goes, if you want peace, prepare for war. Because if you're prepared, you have contingency plans, you will make the other side think twice. So the hope here is to prevent conflict by showing a strong force.
But again, but then again, I see all of that from a military standpoint, diba? There is a show of force, and I completely agree when he talks to Japan, when Australia comes into the picture, and so on. Then there is that show of an alliance. And therefore, it will defray and discourage anything on the military side.
Yeah.
But the passive aggression can look so many ways. Never mind Taiwan. I really just want to talk about Manila and the Philippines.
Right,
right. There are so many ways that China can express its displeasure. It's still the biggest trading partner for the Philippines. What will that look like? A cyber warfare with Beijing. What will that look like? In other words,
madali nga ma-shutdown yung NAIA.
We
saw that, like,
exactly,
just
diba?
like that, right?
Diba?
Yeah.
Magkiskisan lang yung bus sa EDCA, tigil na yung NCR. Di ba parang, that's what we're talking about. So when we say that we have to be prepared, okay, nakita na natin yung usapan, yung nangyayari ngayon on the military side, on the military presence side, on the alliance building. But what else should we be preparing for, and what should preparation look like on all these other fronts?
Yeah, so increasingly, it will be impossible for the Philippines to be neutral on the Taiwan question while we have disputes with China in the West Philippine Sea. So medyo double front yun. Now, for me, the challenge for the Philippines is this. Actually, the challenge also for China is this. If China does countermeasures aggressively, medyo iipitin tayo lalo sa West Philippine Sea and all, then it will make it easier for the defense establishment in the Philippines to say, Mr. President, I think we have to double down on our alliance with the United States, right? So I think the best option for China moving forward, if I were to advise them, is offer something tangible, concrete, that you didn't to President Duterte. Because President Duterte forward deployed all concessions, really didn't get much. So alam natin, just the other day, kausap ni President Marcos yung main construction company ng China, including a very controversial one. Now, so China can say, ganito, Mr. Marcos, you want our help on infrastructure development and all, then slow down on the U.S. part, because we're really not happy about this. Because Robbie, I mean, the response that China gave to the Austin visit was far more aggressive to the response they gave to Kamala Harris' visit to Palawan. So that tells you this was something big that happened. So I think the best course of action for China is to offer carrots, and then from there, kasi pwede i-dribble din ng Philippines yung EDCA eh. Na-dribble ni Duterte for 6 years, pwede rin dribble ni Marcos. So that's why I'm saying we have not crossed the Rubicon
by expanding
yet.
expanding EDCA locations, that's an expression of dribbling?
Dribbling the full implementation of EDCA and dribbling the American access to the 4 additional bases, right? I mean, as I said, the number of exercises, the nature of access, the nature of weapon systems, pwede mo pa rin negotiate lahat yan.
Okay. Then iiwan muna natin ang US and China on the question of dribbling. Therefore, how would you now rate President Marcos in his foreign affairs game?
Well, I mean, the number of foreign visits is a bit too much, probably, and we still have to see. But for me, I just hope that he has really prepared himself for all their potential contingencies, no? But for me, ganito, let's be very clear. The ultimate goal is for the Philippines to have the maximum deterrence capability on its own. At narinig natin kanina, sinabi ni Lloyd Austin, na tutulungan nila ang Pilipinas to develop our own capabilities. So we're not here trying to say, umasa lang tayo sa Amerika para i-dissuade ng China, because it's a very risky thing and it undermines our sovereignty.
Yes.
We want an independent Philippines. So for me, if we're going to give Americans some precious access to precious bases, by God, we have to get them to get us really good military hardware so that we have the capabilities.
That's actually a knock on his father, on Marcos Sr. Diba? Na during his time, the knock